You are joining the series More Titanic Lies. The original series is to be found on my other channel called Village Prisoners Set Free. We're going to open up with a secret film from the World War II era.
Here is an agent on his way to Davy's locker. But don't worry about him, he'll be back. For in this case, Davy's locker is another name for a submersible raft designed as a special hidden storage locker and radio station for the agent in hostile territory. It can be brought in from a submarine or other mother craft and anchored in either salt or fresh water. It's kept submerged while you make your initial reconnaissance and at all times while not in use. Whenever you need anything, you bring the raft to the surface by filling the flotation chambers with compressed air or gas, which forces out the water, holding it down. After the raft reaches the surface, let air flow through the lines until it bubbles out from the bottom of all 4 flotation chambers. The raft then has maximum buoyancy, and you close the high-pressure valve to shut off the air. Open the cans by rotating the handles. Equipment is held in place inside by racks. Lift out the rack containing transmitter, receiver, and power supply. Use the rack as a stand inside the can for setting up the radio.
Okay, that's the Office of Strategic Services. We'll get back to that later. But now we're going to go to a documentary about the Titanic. And I will connect the dots for you, so just hang in there. This is William McQuinty, who brought the film A Night to Remember, put out in the 50s in Great Britain. It was a big hit. And he's talking about the film, and then of course the author of the book he will mention, Walter Lord.
From Queen Charlotte's Hospital, together with a review of Walter Lord's book, A Night to Remember. Now, no film can be better than its script.
This is New York City, and I'm here to interview Walter Lord, the author of the original book. And
by the way, I find it interesting that in the background we see the towers. So I could add to this video and say, not only a night to remember, a day to remember. Well, anyhow, I'm digressing.
To remember.
I wish I knew how my interest in the Titanic began. I really have no idea. I just have always been interested in it. I think it's, when I was 9 years old, I was interested in the Titanic. I think perhaps it has something to do with the way little boys catch cold. Nobody knows how they do it, they just do. I think the same thing with my interest in the Titanic. I had finished a book on our Civil War.
Notice he says, I finished a book on the Civil War. Civil War was a hoax. He also authored a lot of books on World War II, Revolutionary War. This is a war dude, a warlord. Walter Lord. No, call him Warlord. All right.
And I was looking for another project. I thought perhaps about the Civil War again.
P.S. If he is a dude, most likely you're looking at a woman. Take a look at the face, kind of gentle skin, not a very big skull. He's got that feminine look to him.
My editor, who was a chap I worked with in O.S.S. in London, said,
Did you hear it? I worked with the O.S.S. in London. Now the O.S.S. Is kind of the predecessor of the CIA in the United States. In other words, it was a secret organization, an intelligence gathering organization, undercover organization, spy organization. And he was a member of it for the Americans, but he was stationed in Great Britain, in London. So he's got all the connections. O.S.S., warlord.
for another project, I thought perhaps about the Civil War again. And my editor, who was a chap I worked with in O.S.S. in London, said, again, you were always talking about the Titanic, why don't you write a book about it? So I began doing it, but I'd done.
Why don't you employ your skills at lying to people? Because we love for this lie about the Titanic to continue. You're looking at an O.S.S. officer. So you probably are not too familiar with the O.S.S. stuff or information about it. But basically, that was the forerunner of the modern Central Intelligence Agency in the United States. He was an O.S.S. member. You're going to believe him about the Titanic? Walter Lord. What a name, Lord. What Lord? Baal. Baal means Master Lord. Okay, it was short-lived. It was in existence, I think, for about 3 years and 3 months or something like that during World War II. And they were sort of meant to be your intelligence gathering, secret agent type individuals. And the one that we know as Walter Lord was in the American version of spying and intelligence gathering called the O.S.S. So how much of the Titanic hoax do you want to believe? It was fabricated by O.S.S. man. At least the details, not the actual original story, but the details that everybody says it was so accurate, called A Night to Remember. Book first, then the movie. And by the way, that's how they do war hoaxing. A lot of times it starts with a book, and then they make a movie, and you're convinced because you saw the movie about Pearl Harbor, about Midway. You're convinced that it happened because you saw the movie.
Most of the research just to satisfy my own curiosity. When I went to Princeton, other people went to the library to study the classics or French or something, that I went to the library to look at the old newspapers on the Titanic. I also found the hearings there, the American hearings. And that's such a wonderful, unexplored treasury of material on the ship that I gobbled that up too while I was at it. And then I was pretty much ready to write about the subject whenever it happened. I was ready without knowing it.
Okay, Officer Walter Lord, O.S.S., Office of Strategic Services, the prelude to the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States, and he's your author of the book, A Night to Remember. Well, it might be best to forget that night completely, because it never happened. It was all fiction and psyops from a psyops master who reinvented it with his book, A Night to Remember. Thank you for watching this video and the video.